Hello, everybody out there on Facebook and YouTube Live. It's me, Amanda, with Once in a Wild, and it is 3:30 here on Monday, so it's time for our Monday program. We're really excited to see everybody, whoever's going to be joining in. We missed you over the weekend. Hope you had a great weekend, and we're looking forward to a really great show. As you know, our live streams are always free of charge, as usual, but we do accept tips in a couple of different ways. There's donation options for you via Venmo at Once in a Wild is how you can find us, and on Facebook and YouTube Live, it's down below. Our information is usually down there at Once in a While on Venmo is how you can tip and donate in that manner. And then we also have our Amazon wish list as well, which has pre-selected items for our animals that we still need to be able to take care of them. Even right now, our animals always need to eat. They always need care, and we're not stopping any of that. We're always taking really good care of our animals as usual. And so we do need items for them. So that's one fun way that you can actually go on Amazon and pick out some of the items that we've picked out and selected for our animals, and you can ship them to us, which is really fun. How you find that is a couple of ways. We have links on our social media, but a really easy way is to go to onceinawild.com, scroll all the way down to the bottom of the page, and it says donate to our cause. There's a great big box that looks like this, and it says donate to our cause, and that is a direct link to the Amazon wish list. I hope you guys are ready for the program, and I hope you're excited. We're going to go ahead and get started. Hello, everybody, and welcome once again. Hi, Donna. Thanks for chiming in. Please make sure to tag all your friends that you would like to see this video. It should be a fun program today. And share our video now and after it is finished. Hi, Lauren. How's it going? Who's chiming in on Instagram? A few people are watching on Instagram. Remember, if you have any questions, just let me know. And it should be a fun program today. So let's go ahead and get started with our first animal. He's very, very active today. Oh my goodness. And we haven't seen this guy in a little bit. His name is BT. This is BT, a blue tongue skink lizard, and this is a native of Australia. Now, at first glance, you might have maybe thought that he was a snake, and that is because they are very, very snake-like in appearance, aren't they? Hi, Alina. Nice to see you. And that is going to be one of their main defenses. So this type of lizard is from Australia. And their main predators are predatory birds like eagles and hawks. This is a diurnal species. You guys know what diurnal means? It means that they're active during the daytime, just like most humans. Some of you are more nocturnal lately, right? And then crepuscular animals are most active during dawn and dusk. But diurnal animals like the blue tongue skink, which is mostly diurnal, they're going to be mostly active during the day. They might have to watch out for predatory birds like hawks and eagles. Not to say they can't have other predators like maybe dingoes or other lizards like monitor lizards that live out in Australia and snakes. There's several different predatory options out there, right? Just like in most countries, but not a ton of mammals out in Australia because there's a lot of marsupials that eat leaves in Australia. And there's a few predatory marsupials here and there, but not too many in comparison to birds and reptiles. So this type of lizard, the blue tongue skink, mimics snakes. And out there in Australia, there's a very, very dangerous snake to most animals, almost to all animals. It's called the death adder. You wouldn't want to mess with an animal called the death adder, would you? It's called the death adder for a reason. And in this case, it's called the death adder very, very accurately because it is a venomous viper. And that venomous viper actually has a similar pattern to the blue tongue skink lizard that I'm holding and has a similar shaped head. You can see his little head there is kind of diamond shaped, just like most vipers. And also the viper, the death adder, has a blue tongue, a blue-black tongue. Now, the tongue looks different than this lizard's tongue because this lizard's tongue is not forked like a snake's tongue, but oftentimes all of those things together are enough to scare away a predator. So a predatory bird like a hawk, for example, might prey on snakes, but usually they want to avoid the venomous snakes. Not to say that they can't eat them on occasion, but it might be a lot harder to hunt a venomous snake that is very dangerous than like a benign snake, like a colubrid or a python or something like that. But they definitely go after lizards. Lizards are a favorite meal of most predatory birds. So this type of lizard, they wouldn't be kind of crawling on like a branch or anything like that. They're very, very terrestrial. You guys know what terrestrial means? It means that they live primarily on the ground. So I'm going to show you how they kind of move on the ground. If I put him down, he's probably going to move very, very quickly or slowly. Sometimes they move fast, sometimes they move slow. But can you see how they kind of scoot their belly onto the ground? They're extremely terrestrial. They're not designed for climbing, especially when they get bigger. These guys aren't climbing lizards. But you can see how they kind of scoot along, especially on Instagram. You guys can really see them. Oh, that's so cool. But they are designed for being on the ground, like I said. And these type of lizards, the blue tongue skink has many different basically localities of them. So they're located all over the Australian continent and Australasia as well, and some island areas. But they are very widespread. So pretty cool. So these guys are adaptive to different locations, but always terrestrial, so on the ground. Always ground dwelling, not a climbing lizard. And they look like a snake as they scoot along the ground. And if you didn't see their legs, they would look a lot like a snake, wouldn't they? And being so close to the ground makes it very, very easy for you to hide your little legs if you are this lizard. That is one main defense of the blue tongue skink. Another defense, of course, is biting. Like all animals, they can bite. They can't really scratch very much because they have tiny little legs. Their legs are so small, so tiny. But biting is an option for sure, and the bigger they get, the bigger their jaws. And these guys are actually snail eaters out in the wild, and sometimes in the care of humans, they'll eat snails too. Why not? These guys are omnivores. They eat almost anything they can get a hold of, including carrion, which is dead animals that have already passed away. They can eat fruits and vegetables. They can eat eggs. They can eat snails. Like I said, really anything. Kind of like the pigs of the lizard world. Very, very not picky at all. But snails are... in Australia, especially, there's some really, really tough snails called apple snails. And apple snails have a very tough shell to protect them from predators. But this type of lizard, especially when they get a little bigger, can crush the shell of an apple snail. So they have very strong jaws. They're not really inclined to bite, especially to people or anything like that. He's very, very sweet. He's just moving around a lot. But they can definitely bite as an option to defend themselves. Another way they can defend themselves is by losing their tail. So if all of that... basically pretending to be a snake doesn't work, because they definitely kind of look like one. If it doesn't deter the predator, they might stick out their tongue and hiss at a predator to kind of look snake-like too, just to look defensive in general. That's kind of a universal communication for leave me alone, right? In the animal kingdom, like doing that. Leave me alone too. I'm just kidding. If I wanted to be left alone, I would do that too. But they kind of stick out their tongue. They flash their tongue. Their tongue is also blue-black, which is a warning. Also looks like that viper. Sort of, kind of. What was I saying? So these guys, if that doesn't work, then they'll try to bite. And if they get grabbed by the tail, that tail can actually drop off. And then the tail will keep wiggling. That predator, whatever it may be, will hopefully get a snack of a tail. And then the rest of the animal can run off and then re-grow the tail eventually. So the tail might take about 6 months to grow back, though. It takes a long, long time, depending on where it actually fell off at. It's not necessarily always in one place or one segment that it can fall off. So it kind of depends. But it can regenerate. It'll never look the same after it regenerates, though. It wouldn't have this beautiful pattern. As you can see, he has a original tail. Let's see what questions we have so far about BT, the blue tongue skink. And I see you guys are tuning in now. Forgive me, I have to have one hand to answer y'all's questions. So let's make sure he's settling down first. Maybe I'll switch hands. Let's see. You guys are all chiming in. Hi again. And tagging your friends. Very, very good. I really like that. Hello again. So you guys are just saying hi and tagging your friends so far. No questions yet. You're okay. You're okay. It's just very, very wiggly. And he's gotten a lot bigger lately. This lizard used to be super tiny, about the third of the size when I got him. One really fun thing about this type of lizard is when they're born, they don't lay eggs. They don't come from eggs, I should say. So mama skink, whenever she wants to have all the babies, or whenever I don't know if she wants to or not, but whenever she has babies, they are not egg-laying lizards. Isn't that cool? So there's some other lizards and snakes out there in the animal kingdom that don't lay eggs. This is actually one of them. They're live bearers. So in the reptile world, we call that ovoviviparous. That just means that mom will hang on to those eggs inside of her body a little bit longer than other lizards do. Those eggs are soft and they just kind of develop inside of mom. kind of like most animals, if we think about it, we all come from eggs, don't we, inside of our mother. And they will stay inside of mom, kind of do the rest of their incubation, if you will, inside. And then when mom's ready to expel them and give birth, they come out live. And these guys can have quite a few of them at a time. They have quite large litters of babies when they're ready. This is not a full-grown blue tongue skink. This one is about a third of the weight, all the way grown. They can get 2 to 3 times bigger as the skink here. Pretty large. He's still got a ways to go. I think I might have some questions on Instagram, so let's take a look. Hello, everyone. Hello. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for the heart eyes. Love it. Hello, everyone. Yes, so we were just talking about the tail, weren't we? Boutique Bodyworks, shout out to you guys. Go follow them. She was asking if they can lose the tail after too much handling. Now, it would take a lot for this particular species of lizard to lose their tail. It would take some type of pressure, an animal clamping down, or it getting caught in something. So it wouldn't just be like out of nowhere or anything like that. These guys aren't inclined to lose their tail as easily as some other lizards. So that is a great question. Like geckos and things like that, and some other like anoles and animals like that, those guys drop their tails very, very easily because they tend to get kind of spooked that way. These guys, it would take quite a bit for them to actually lose their tail. It's not something that any lizard wants to do as well, because every lizard, when they lose, as you might imagine, their body part, that is also losing some body fat. So they are actually losing some of their reserves, if you will, if they do that. Good question. Yeah, and he is a sweetie, I agree. Such a cutie. Thank you for saying he's a cutie. Lizards are super cute. Now, when we talk about reptiles, there are 4 categories of reptiles, aren't there? There are lizards, just like the blue tongue skink. There are snakes. There are turtles and tortoises, and the crocodilians. Crocodilians are the only reptile representation that I don't have quite yet in my collection, maybe someday. But crocodilians usually require a lot of space, and they require water, so a big water area. So that would be a lot of space and a lot of maintenance for little old me to take care of. Right now, I'm the only one taking care of our animal, so that would be quite a bit of work, to be honest with you. But I do intend to hopefully have some kind of crocodilian in our collections to talk about them, because they are amazing animals and one of my favorites to talk about. But so are blue tongue skinks. Blue tongue skinks have a lot to discuss. They're pretty cool for such a lizard as this. They're kind of a common type of lizard found throughout the world. In fact, we have skinks right here in the United States. If you guys live in Texas, we've got several skink species. Most of the skinks that live here in the United States are very small, though. So those lizards, you may not even see them. So they're so small, and they live on the ground. Like we said, they're terrestrial. Most skinks are terrestrial. There's a couple of exceptions. There's one called the prehensile-tailed skink, which is from the Solomon Islands. Those guys are arboreal, but they're very, very different looking than this type of skink. This type of skink looks like our skinks, only it's much larger. So our type of skinks, you would maybe find them if you were digging around your leaves or in the grass. They're very, very small, and they burrow underneath the leaves, underneath the ground to stay safe. They're very fast as well, because they're typically don't want anything to do with you, so they're probably going to run off really fast. Where I see them a lot is during the winter and during the fall, when they're starting to kind of wake up, but I guess during the fall in that case. So no. Well, in the fall, they're starting to go to bed for, it's a little bit of hibernation. So at least here in Texas, we don't have a very long winter. So it's not very long that they're going to be gone. But anywho, they're going to go underneath the dirt, underneath the soil, underneath the leaves to stay away from the wintertime, because it's too cold. So they kind of just shut down for the winter. But regardless, you might see them kind of during their hibernation or burmation, and when they're moving a little slower. Otherwise, they're moving really fast. In the springtime, you might see them running around, but you'll be lucky to see anything, honestly. But we do have several skink species right here in the United States. There's also a legless lizard and several species of legless lizard that are related to the skinks. They're a type of skink too, and they don't have any legs. And they really look like a snake, except for they do have ear holes, just like this guy. See his ear holes right behind his little mouth there, and eye. He's got ear holes there. And they also have eyelids. So no snakes have eyelids, and no snakes have ear holes. So that's one way that you can tell the difference between a legless lizard and a snake. Pretty neat. And legless lizards look very similar to this guy here, just with no legs. But they're still lizards. Isn't that amazing? If he'll settle down enough for me to hold him with one hand, I'll see if I can get to y'all's question. Looks like he's settling down. Sometimes our animals take a minute to settle down because there's a lot of bright lights. It's a different room than they're used to. They're actually used to me kind of just holding them in programs, in classrooms and stuff where not as bright of lights and things. So you have to be patient with our animals, right? While they get used to things. So now he's settling down. He's actually really sweet. These guys are not inclined to be aggressive at all. Might just be a little bit skittish sometimes. Ricardo asks, is it venomous? That's a very good question. So it is non-venomous. This type of lizard is not venomous, but there are other type of lizards that are venomous. Did you know that? So there are lizards such as Gila monsters and beaded lizards that are venomous. And even the Komodo dragon is actually fairly newly discovered to be traditionally venomous. Now, lizards, when they are venomous, they have to kind of chew into you. It's not like a snake where they inject their venom like a hypodermic needle from their fangs. A lizard would have to basically bite you and kind of gnaw on you a little bit and then just drool all over you because venom is just saliva, remember? I don't know if I told you guys that before. But that is just their saliva. So they would have to kind of like and drool all over you to actually envenomate you. So it's not very common that a Gila monster, a beaded lizard, or even, of course, a Komodo dragon actually envenomates people. They don't really want to. There's no reason for them to waste their venom on us because we're not food. And that's what they use it for, is to subdue their food. But he is not venomous. No. Yes, and definitely has gotten bigger. Like all reptiles, this guy BT will never stop growing his whole life. But once he reaches maturity, that means able to reproduce. That's what we talk about when we talk about maturity. Now, what's funny is we don't really know this lizard's gender. And I don't really know if we will ever know because they don't look any different from each other, male to female. That is called monomorphism. So dimorphism is when they look different between male and female. And most animals actually do have a little bit of dimorphism to them. This type of lizard is very, very hard to tell. They're monomorphic. Male and female are the same size, pretty much. Sometimes females get a little larger because they do have the babies and they have to carry a litter of live babies that they give birth to, right? But there's no way to actually really be able to tell. I don't know if we'll ever know. And that's okay. We're not planning on breeding this animal, so there's no real reason to know other than our curiosity. So he has the name of BT, which stands for Blue Tongue Skink, BT skink. So we call him BT just for fun. And that works either way for either gender, right? But he has gotten bigger for sure. And like all reptiles, they never stop growing their whole life. So they just slow down quite a bit after maturity. So they kind of hurry up and grow really, really fast while they're babies to be able to be safer, because the smaller you are, the more likely you'll be food. So the faster they grow, the better for their survival, right? And then eventually they'll kind of slow down their growth, but they'll never stop growing their entire life. So he will get bigger and bigger and bigger until he passes away. Hello, Suzette. Nice to see you. So these guys actually do not lay eggs. So this type of lizard is the blue tongue skink. And when mom blue tongue skink has babies, they are live-born. And that basically means in reptile terms that they have eggs inside of their body, just like all reptiles do. But instead of laying the eggs, they actually keep their eggs inside of their body a little bit longer than most reptiles. And those eggs will actually incubate inside of the mother. And then they are born live. And these guys can have quite a few babies. I can't remember the number of how many in their litter, but it's quite a few. It's anywhere from like 2, that would be like a very small litter, all the way up to, I want to say 15 to 20, and it might even be more. I need to look that up for you guys, and I'll get back to you on the comments on how many they can have. They have quite a few, and they are very large babies for having so many. Pretty cool. Good question, though. What do we have going on Instagram? Such a cutie. Thank you. He is a cutie. Yeah, answered that question already. Went fantastic. Let me know if you guys have any other questions about the blue tongue skink. They are a fantastic lizard. They are so smooth. A lot of people think that he might be a salamander on screen. He's not a salamander. He's a lizard. So lizards are reptiles and salamanders are amphibians. That's the main difference. So the axolotl, for example, is a salamander. But amphibians have very, very slimy skin. He does not. He has scales, and his scales are not slimy whatsoever. Reptiles don't have slime. They're just very shiny and pretty and kind of look wet, but they are not. They're actually waterproof in their skin. Isn't that amazing? Well, I think BT has done a fantastic job. Maybe we'll move on to the next animal. If you guys have any other questions about him, you sure let me know. He's got beautiful brown eyes, doesn't he? His eyes are so pretty. They're almost human-like to me. His little round pupils, so beautiful. And again, this is a skink, and a skink is just a type of lizard. Of course, there's, in reptile terms, there's lizards, crocodilians, turtles and tortoises, snakes, and then there's all different types of all of those categories, right? So the skink is just a type of lizard that is known in the planet. And there are several of them, all different kinds all over the planet. They all have similar features. They're very smooth. Most of them are ground-dwelling or terrestrial or subterrestrial, meaning underground, but etc. But there are some species that are arboreal, and they're still skinks. Genetically, they're still related, and they have all the rest of the features. Awesome. Okay, he's so pretty. Look at those beautiful yellow colorations. He is just gorgeous. And his little black legs are adorable. Look how well he's doing now. Y'all can see his ears and his eyes. I wish you guys could touch him. He's so smooth. Maybe someday I'll see you guys in person. You guys can book us for an in-person encounter soon. That would be a lot of fun. Okay, guys. Oh, I forgot to tell you his favorite foods. So he's an omnivore. So they eat all kinds of things, but his favorite food is actually bananas. Isn't that adorable? So a little bit of banana. He also gets cat food and dog food, worms, bugs, all kinds of different things to eat. Fruits and vegetables, grapes sometimes. Oh, yes, sometimes rodents, but occasionally he's still pretty small, so he gets like little rodents. Okay, good job, BT. You were fantastic. You get to rest right here beside me. How's that? Okay, so we talked about the lizard, right? I'm just going to put him away. That's okay with you guys. And for those of y'all that saw our little test preview, you saw our next animal already today. I'm just making sure I don't have any other questions for a moment. You guys hang tight. I'm actually going to check my camera. Just wanted to check my camera really fast because we had so many camera issues last time. I want to get in the habit of doing that in between animals. How about that? Alrighty, so let's talk about a different type of animal altogether. And let's see here. Back to our comments so I can see you guys. So our next animal is not a reptile. It's actually a tarantula. So this is an invertebrate, right? So what does the word invertebrate mean? That just means that they don't have a spine. Invertebrate, so no vertebrae, no spine, no backbone, no bones at all. So this here is a animal that has an exoskeleton, and she is a Arizona Blonde Tarantula. This here is Blondie. If you guys haven't seen her in the past, she's kind of a frequent animal that we bring on program. She is so good. She's the best tarantula ever. And she is an Arizona Blonde, so obviously you know where they come from. Arizona Blonde comes from California, right? No, of course not. It comes from Arizona. You guys can't see her. Let's get rid of this. There we go. So you can see how she moves. It's kind of cool. She looks great on this purple cloth. That is so cool. So the Arizona Blonde Tarantula comes from Arizona. They are a very dry weather species. And they still need moisture though, and so she does get a little teeny tiny water dish to drink out of when she wants to, and she does use it sometimes in my care. And also they require kind of a warmer climate, but tarantulas don't need a whole lot of warmth. They don't need like a heat lamp or anything like that. So she's in just a space in the room upstairs in my reptile room that's nice and warm without the draft on her and everything like that. And that's plenty for them. They're actually nocturnal anyway, so they don't come out in the total heat of the day anyway. During the heat of the day is way too warm for them to be out, just like some of the other arachnids like scorpions and things like that don't come out in the day either. It's far too sensitive for them. So they're nocturnal. And yeah, so she doesn't need a whole lot of moisture though, not like misting or anything like that. She doesn't need that. She would need just a little tiny water dish is plenty. And she also gets moisture from her food. So of course, as a spider, her food are things like crickets, roaches, all kinds of insects like that. Her favorite are crickets here in my care. She is very picky. She won't eat very many dubia roaches anymore. I don't know what that is about, because dubia roaches used to be her favorite, and now she's switched over to crickets. Who knows why? But she eats really well on the crickets. Yeah, very, very cool. So all tarantulas are insectivores, and all tarantulas are carnivores. So carnivore means she eats meat only, other animals only, and they're insectivores, so they're going to be eating bugs. That doesn't mean that they can't occasionally eat a very tiny mammal or something like that, or in some cases, some tarantulas eat very tiny birds sometimes, but it's not very often. So they are considered to be an insectivore because their diet is mostly consisting of insects. Let's see if Instagram can come this way so we can see a little bit better. How's that? Oh, it's much better. What questions do y'all have about the tarantula? Her name is Blondie once again. And since she's a spider, that means that they have 2 body parts and 8 legs and 2 arm-like appendages called pedipalps. Her pedipalps are right here in the front, the little arms, but she does have 8 limbs otherwise and 2 body parts. Her body parts are called the cephalothorax, which is the first little section, and her hind section here, the back section, is called the abdomen. That's what it's called. I had to think there for a second. That is a feature of all spiders and all arachnids. So that also includes scorpions too. Scorpions also have 2 main body parts, the cephalothorax and the abdomen. Now, tarantulas also have hair all over their body. Their main sense to be able to sense the world around them and to be able to hunt is their sense of touch, by far. That is their main sense. So these guys are covered in teeny tiny little hairs. Those hairs are used to sense the world around them, like I said, and very, very sensitive to movement in the air. They're sensitive to movement on the ground. So these guys do make webbing. They don't make a traditional web like Charlotte's Web style up in the corner, like how we think of a spider web. They don't write in their spider web either, like Charlotte. But these guys do make webbing that they kind of make a little carpet out of, or a bed out of, on the ground. And that also helps them not only to stay comfortable, but that also helps them to feel for their prey. So a lot of times these tarantulas during the day, they will sleep all day and they'll be inside of a burrow or some kind of hole that they live in underground, or underneath something, maybe underneath a fallen dead tree or something like that. It's where they feel safe, but they'll create a little blanket or carpet of web, and maybe a bug will walk by, right? And they'll feel that motion, especially with all of their hairs all over their body. Think of a cat that's covered in nothing but whiskers. I know cats have hairs, but imagine if it had feeling hairs all over their body. That's basically what a tarantula is. They do have eyes. The eyes are really hard to see, but they're up there, and they have 8 eyes. So remember that as 1 eye for each leg. So 8 legs, right? 8 legs and 8 eyes. Those eyes can see, but they have very, very poor vision. These guys, their eyesight is only based on movement and shadows. That is it. So their main sense, like I said, is a sense of touch. Michelle says, my 8-year-old daughter wants to ask if Blondie can make a web too. So yeah, they can. They can make web, but it's not like a spider web, traditional spider, like Spider-Man web that we think of like that looks really pretty and they create overnight and then you see the web. A lot of other spiders do that, of course, but the reason is these guys are very, very heavy bodied, and most tarantulas are pretty heavy for a invertebrate. So they can't really sit up in a web and hunt in that way. So instead they hunt on the ground. And there are some arboreal tarantulas too, but to my knowledge, no tarantula makes that pretty web. It almost looks like cobweb instead of traditional web. But some arboreal or tree-dwelling tarantulas do make web that looks like a hammock for them to lay in. It's really cute. Okay. Let me know if y'all have any other questions, of course. Did you guys know that tarantulas have little claws? So tarantulas have retractable claws, just like cats too. Speaking of cats, we talked about earlier. These guys have little retractable claws that they can use for a little bit of climbing, but in this case, she's not a climbing tarantula, remember, so she won't do a whole lot of that. But their claws are so teeny tiny, I can feel them on my skin, and I can see them from where I am. But it's something to look up because it's a really neat fact about tarantulas. And did you guys know that tarantulas don't have any brain? Oh my gosh, they don't have a brain. How is she alive? Well, instead of having a brain, they have a basically a bundle of nerve systems, and it's called a ganglia, or ganglia. I guess it's not a ganglia, it's just ganglia. And that's how they function instead of having a brain. Crazy, right? I can't believe y'all don't have any questions. And now this animal, unlike the lizard, is venomous. So all tarantulas are venomous, but most tarantulas are totally benign or harmless to humans. So if Blondie here were to bite me, it wouldn't really hurt that much. It would be very, very mild. It might hurt like a pinch and I'd be fine. But they are venomous to their food. So what their venom is actually for is for liquefying their food. So if she were to want to catch a bug, she would wait for it to walk by. Like I said, these guys are ambush predators. So that means that they sit and wait for their food to come to them. They don't do a whole lot of active hunting. If you guys see a tarantula running around, seasonally that happens, especially here in the United States and in Texas, I see it all the time. It's usually the males. Male tarantulas, when they're ready for finding a mate, they will actually leave the safety of their burrow. It's usually the end of their life expectancy as well. Males don't live very long. Male tarantulas, at least the ones in Texas, I know, live maybe like 4 to 5 years old at the most. And that's pretty typical of larger tarantulas for boys. And the females can live into their 20s or so. So quite a bit of a difference, right? The females can reproduce several times, but males usually only reproduce once or twice in their lifetime. So once they're ready, they're going to run around and looking for females. It's worth the risk for them, worth the risk of coming out of their burrow. But if you see that activity, that's actually not a hunting activity. They're hunting for love, but not for food. So they're not trying to be aggressive or anything like that. So there's no reason to be afraid of them unless you're so arachnophobic that you can't even look at them. I understand, but the best thing is just leave them alone. They're not really out to get anyone. They're just looking for females. That's it. Here's a question on, let me see, on Instagram. I'm going to keep holding her for you guys to see her. She's so beautiful. Yeah, no back pain. I guess not. Pretty cool. No spine, no back pain, no brain. So I don't know if I don't even know if they feel pain. That is something to look up. All you entomologists out there, if you know of any entomologists that know about, entomologists are scientists that study bugs or bug experts. I don't think they feel pain, which would be fantastic life, wouldn't it? Boutique Bodywork says, I've seen a large tarantula run across the road in Big Bend National Park here in Texas. It was huge. Yes, that's likely a male. Males and females of that species, it's usually the Texas brown tarantula, might be some other different ones too. Those guys are both huge, males and females. Typically in tarantulas, females are at least a little bit larger, but ours here in Texas are typically around the same size. So that's probably a male and looking for love, or it could be a female just moving from one place to another. But typically once a tarantula finds a home, and as long as nothing happens to their home, typically they're going to stay there. So they're not really going to venture out very much at all for these type of terrestrial or subterrestrial tarantulas. No problem. So Lucinda is coming in a little late. That's fine. This is Blondie, and she's an Arizona Blonde Tarantula. These guys are naturally this color, and they live in Arizona mostly and surrounding areas of Arizona, around Arizona too, a little bit. And these guys are a desert type of tarantula. They have beautiful kind of reddish blonde legs. And they vary from individual to individual. Sometimes they're a little bit more blonde. Sometimes they're a little bit more redhead. Just like humans, I guess. And they have black kind of forelegs here before the rest of their leg. And then they turn, the legs are kind of blondish red. And then at the tips of their toes, they're black again. Aren't they beautiful? So, so beautiful. But that is what she is, an Arizona Blonde Tarantula. Very, very docile species, as you can see. She's very sweet, very calm. Just a great all-around spider. Good personality on her for sure. But this species is typically pretty docile. She's a very, very good girl. And you're welcome. No problem. No problem at all. Y'all keep your questions coming or your curiosities coming. I love it. It helps me to have talking points too. So now we talked about their hair being for basically the sense of touch and finding their food and things like that. That is the main reason that they have hair. But another reason that they might have hair is for defense. Now, why in the world would they have hair for defense? Well, the first defense of this type of animal is actually to use their hairs to defend themselves. That sounds really weird, right? We can't get away from me. Get away. That wouldn't do anything. in our case, right? Like whatsoever. We can't use our hair for defense. That'd be weird. Right? I'm losing my mind, y'all. It's quarantine time. But anywho, it's getting to me. No, but seriously though, that doesn't make sense in most cases, right? Most mammals don't use their hair for defense other than to maybe like protect their body as like a coat of hair, I guess. You could potentially use it for armor, but not really, right? But these guys will actually throw their hairs at their enemies to stay safe. Now, how the heck do they do that? That's really weird too. Well, if a tarantula is getting snuck up on and a predator is coming up behind them like that and they get spooked, they might feel the breath of the predator or something like that. Then what they'll do is they'll use their little back legs and start going, and they'll actually kick all the hairs into the air. They'll start shedding a cloud of hair. Now that sounds like, well, who cares? Like, it's not really a big deal, right? But their hairs are very, very irritating. They're very irritating. They're very, very coarse. It's almost like getting a whole bunch of eyelashes up in the air. Have you ever had an eyelash in your eye? It's awful. So if you have a bunch of like teeny tiny eyelashes that are sharper than eyelashes into the air, and they're kind of almost like semi-microscopic, you can't even see them, and it gets into your eyeballs, then you're probably going to say, whoa, I can't see. I don't know what happened. I'm going to get out of here and go, you know, splash my face with some water and try to feel better. And then meanwhile, the sneaky little tarantula can get away and live to spider another day, which is very, very good. So that's a really cool defense mechanism, a cloud of hair. Wouldn't that be cool if we could just do that? Get away from me. Just like shed all over the place. Be a great defense mechanism. Okay, we have more questions. Ashley says, well, if you have thick hair, you could whip someone. That is so true. That is very, very creative. So if you had like a really thick braid, I guess you could just like hit somebody with it. I myself don't have thick enough hair for that. Oh, thank you. Amanda is asking, hi, Amanda. Amanda's asking, how did you get her to trust you besides your natural abilities? Well, like I said before, tarantulas actually don't have brains. So there's very little that we know about their learning abilities per se. Don't tell her that because I think she's a very smart lady. I think she's very, very cool. I love her. But they're not super intelligent as far as invertebrates go. There are much more intelligent invertebrates like octopus and squid. Those guys do have brains, and their brains are just kind of all over their bodies. They're not really in one central place. So an octopus, for example, has their brain and their nervous system and all the things in all their tentacles too. So they're learning all the time by touching and things. They're amazing. It's something really cool to look up is octopus and how they learn. These guys, not so much. They're pretty simple animals, so it's really just acclimation. It's acclimating her to being handled, that she's not going to get hurt. I've never hurt her. I've never tried to scare her. So you're just very gentle with them. They're actually pretty fragile. So tarantulas in general, if they took like a fall, that would be very, very bad for them. I'm being very careful, don't worry. And she also has a soft surface here, so if anything were to happen, there's a soft surface. But they're pretty fragile. They're not designed to like take a tumble and fall. These guys are terrestrial. Now I do have other tarantulas which are arboreal. They're more designed to, if they have to fall down because they live in trees, they would survive and be okay. These kind of tarantulas don't ever climb really much. You can see she's doing fine on my hand. But I mean, it's really just acclimation. It's just practice. Getting to know her as well. Once she calms down, she's always calm, but sometimes I pick her up and I maybe surprised her. She just didn't see that I was there. Remember, they have terrible eyesight. I might have spooked her a little bit. She goes, oh my gosh. And then like, she's like, oh, it's fine. Like there's nothing hurting me. So they kind of settle down after that. That's a good question. But tarantulas are very simple animals as far as their learning abilities. That doesn't make them less than another animal, right? So it's just different. It's just different. We can't judge them for having many legs and having no brains and being venomous. It just means that they're different than us, and that's okay, right? I wouldn't be judged, wouldn't want to, excuse me, I wouldn't want to be judged for being different, right? Sometimes we're judged for different things, and I don't like that. So that's why I try to speak for these cool animals that are so different than us. Ha ha ha. Like prickly pear hair. Love it. Yes, that is very cute. Yes, we have more animals coming, and the beginning of the program we had a lizard that we were learning about, if that's what you're asking. So once this video is finished, it'll be uploaded to Facebook and YouTube, and we're also doing a program over on Instagram too. Hopefully it'll be on my story afterwards, and you can actually meet the lizard too. We had a lizard out a little bit ago. How many eyes? We talked about this already, but they have 8 eyes. So easy to remember for a spider. Most spiders have 8 eyes, just like they have 8 legs. Did you know that spiders also have 2 arms? So they have 8 legs and 2 arms. When we talk about spiders' arms, they're called pedipalps. And those pedipalps are like little arms. But they have very, very tiny eyes on top of their head here. Their eyes don't see very well, but they have a good range of vision on top of their head. On top of their eyes. Their eyes are on top of the head, but they have 8 of them in a little cluster together. Very, very good question. And thank you, Amanda, for tagging all of your friends. Oh, Arachno Addict. Hello, it's good to see you. Yes, jumping spiders are the smartest of spiders. I agree. Jumping spiders do have learning abilities, and they can actually learn how to hunt in like different ways. They're fascinating animals. So jumping spiders are totally different as far as learning abilities and smarts, if you will, than a tarantula. Tarantulas are very, very different. But we love tarantulas too. That doesn't mean they're less than just because they have different ways of learning. Isn't that right? We all learn in our own way, don't we? Don't we? So precious. And spiders are really, really important. Did you guys know that spiders are a lot more beneficial than harmful to humans? So if you have a spider in your backyard or in your home, it's actually okay to leave them alone within reason. You don't want to necessarily leave alone like a black widow, brown recluse. All those guys are pretty toxic to humans. I'm not going to lie. So those guys, you know, remove them or whatever you need to do. But otherwise, you got a little jumping spider in your home. Leave him be. He's not going to harm you. He's going to eat a lot of flies and mosquitoes and things. And really cool. And even like your garden spiders, your orb weaver spiders, your tarantulas, all those guys are perfectly fine to just leave alone. Let them do their job. Their job is to be a predator, and their prey is all kinds of pest animals like mosquitoes and flies and roaches. You guys like roaches? I'm not a big fan of the wild cockroaches out here. They're one of my least favorite animals. I'm scared of them. And believe it or not, I don't mind our Madagascar hissing cockroaches because they're totally different. But I appreciate animals that eat roaches like tarantulas. So pretty cool to leave alone and let them do their job, which is being a vital member of the food chain. So these guys are predators, specialized predators that eat all those pest bugs. And you're welcome, Michelle. No problem. No problem. So let's go ahead and say see you later to Blondie. And yes, we all love tarantulas for sure. Yes, yes, yes. She's even waving her little leg like this, saying goodbye. Oh my goodness, why is she so cute? Aw, she's like, bye, you guys. We're going to say see you later to her. Look at her cute little face. I don't think I told you guys how they eat. So that reminded me just looking at her little face. So their fangs are underneath here. The chelicerae is where they kind of store all of their venom. So the chelicerae are the little front area that kind of has a split down the middle, right underneath her eyes. She's got the 2 chelicerae right behind her arms, otherwise known as pedipalps. So that's where the fangs are. The fangs are actually underneath, and she's so good. I can probably just show you her fangs. See underneath? Those are the fangs. Isn't that cool? It's hard to see on Instagram, but there they are. They're kind of just like tucked up underneath there. She's so sweet. Unless she needs to use them, they're tucked underneath for keeping them out of the way of things. And then when she needs to use them, she's going to stab her prey with them. That could be like a cricket, for example, or a roach. And once they stab their prey, they're going to inject venom. And then that venom will liquefy that bug, and then they could take a drink out of bug. It makes them into a liquid, which is how they eat. These guys can't chew up their food, so they have to liquefy their food. And then they drink it like a little smoothie. Bug smoothie, delicious. With that being said, we're going to say see you later to Blondie. She did a fantastic job. And once again, I'm going to check my camera here really, really briefly. I'll be right back for you guys on Facebook. Be right. All right, fantastic. Yeah, that's actually a good little system. I just check it in between animals. How about that? Pretty smart. I, unlike the tarantula, have a brain. so I can learn from my mistakes. So in case you're wondering, what I'm checking for is like battery life. Sometimes our camera, it's an SLR, it's not a video camera. Sometimes it just decides to shut off because it says, hey, I'm not a video camera, I'm an SLR. So what are you doing? To try to save battery, it just turns off. So I'm just checking them. We should be good now. Okay, so we met a lizard, we met a tarantula, we met no one else yet. See if anybody else has questions. And I'm glad the picture's coming in crystal clear. That's fantastic. Yeah, we're doing our very best these days, aren't we? External digestion. Yes. Arachno Addict says external digestion. So that's basically what it is. So, oh, I'm showing you the next animal on accident. So the spider, when they inject their venom, it's like liquefying the food, and that's like their digestion outside of their body. Isn't that amazing? Animals are insanely amazing. I get so excited. Oh, and Boutique Body Works will see you next time. Don't worry, this will be uploaded to Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. So you can watch it later if you missed the end of it here. And we'll be done in just a little bit. We're going to try to keep it in an hour today. We're doing our best. It's hard for me to keep it in an hour because I just talk forever, but you know, we're going to try. Okay, so we're going to meet one more reptile. How about that? We talked about how the blue tongue skink mimics a certain animal. So they actually mimic a snake. I have not brought a death adder snake today, but I brought another snake, and he's one of my favorites. For those of you that know him, you love him too. Here he comes. Woo! This is our boy Slytherin, and he is such a good snake. Slithery snake. Slytherin is a California king snake. So these guys come from Arizona, right? Just kidding. They come from California. California king snake. It's in the name. Very, very easy to learn. So these guys are found in California. To my knowledge, they're found throughout California. And Slytherin here is a little bit on the brown scale. I don't know, it's really hard to see. He looks totally black, which is how they mostly look. Most California king snakes look black and white. Very, very simple. But Slytherin is a little bit browner than some of the other blackest California king snakes I've seen before. And that means he's more of a coastal representation. So he would live more on the coastline if he were a wild California king snake. All right, so yes, he is back. Now, the California king snake is a type of colubrid. These guys are not a venomous snake, and they are not a python or boa, so they're not a constrictor. They're considered to be a colubrid, and colubrids are kind of like the leftovers of all the snakes. It's just like an extra category. Colubrids include king snakes like this. They include rat snakes, corn snakes, milk snakes, bull snakes, indigo snakes, all the things. Hognose snakes, there's so many in that category. They really should try to come up with a couple more categories to help categorize all these animals. But they're colubrids, and king snakes have a very interesting diet. Now, all snakes are carnivores. They are obligate carnivores, which means they can't digest plants and they can't digest carbohydrates. They can only digest other animals. They are obligate carnivores, meaning that they eat meat and only meat, and anything else would actually not be good for them. Now, of course, his food has eaten usually fruits and vegetables and carbohydrates and all those things, carbohydrates. And so that's fine for him to obviously eat. He eats the whole animal when he eats an animal. So, for example, a mouse or a rat, something like that. But the king snake is not only a carnivore, but they eat other reptiles. He just gave like a face like, what do we do? What? He's other reptiles. So these guys out there in the wild, their main diet is going to be other reptiles, but they also eat all the things that we talked about before, including rats and mice, birds, eggs, all kinds of things, and then including other snakes and lizards. They eat frogs. They can eat fish if they catch one. Not picky at all. Now, Slytherin as an individual snake, an individual snake, his name is Slytherin, he is kind of picky for a king snake. That is kind of weird because most king snakes eat anything that you give them. I have another king snake and his name is Jareth. He was in another program a month or so ago. And Jareth did a feeding presentation on here. I know the quality wasn't amazing that day. We were having issues, but there was a feeding demo of him, and that's because I knew he would eat anything on camera because he is a fantastic eater. Jareth will eat anything that I give him, no problem. But this guy here only wants to eat mice, and he doesn't like to eat anything else. I have tried. And he says, no, thank you. I would like mice, please. The Slytherin is older. We don't really know his age. I was actually given Slytherin. He was given to me. That's how you say that. He was given to me by an individual who just needed a home for him, and they had had him in their family for a long time, but they didn't really know his age either, to my knowledge. So he's at least 10, 12, 15, something like that. So he's not like old. These guys can live into their 20s. That would be a very old man king snake, but we hope so because he's fantastic. The great animal ambassador. Oh, did it keep glitching? I'm so sorry. I thought it was coming in well. It kind of depends on the internet connection. It also depends on your internet connection. So hopefully after this is posted, you guys can see it again. It should be okay. But if you guys missed it, this is Slytherin. They are a king snake. They're known to eat other snakes in the wild. That is why they call them the king snake. It's like the king of snakes. So the king cobra, a very venomous snake, in another country. Those guys aren't from the US at all, obviously. But the king snake, is king cobra rather, is called the king cobra because they also eat other snakes too. But most cobras do actually eat snakes pretty readily. Oh yes. Ooh, question from Amanda. Do they ambush or do they wait for prey? Well, ambush and wait for prey is the same thing. Gotcha. So when you ambush something, that means you are waiting still, and then you surprise them. That's what ambush means. But I think you're asking, do they actively hunt or do they wait for their prey? So do they ambush or do they actively hunt? These guys are more active hunters. So they're actually going to go out and try to find their prey actively. I'm going to put this back up here in case you guys wanted to know our information. They're going to actively look for prey. They're very, very active snakes in general. As you can see, he's moving around quite a bit. Also, his coloration would not really be good for hiding, right? So he's not really a type of snake that has a lot of camouflage. This is the natural color that they come in. I don't know if I said that already, but they are banded black and white. So that would stand out really well on like some grass or some leaves, right? That wouldn't really blend into anything. So they're an active hunting snake. Now, if I end on Instagram, you guys, I will just start over and we'll finish our program on a little short segment afterwards. But we're almost done. So this guy's coloration is for a very different reason, not for blending into anything. It's going to be for defense. So sometimes a snake, and there's different species that do this, will have banded patterns, striped patterns that stand out, right? And that is going to be to warn their enemies. Now, I'm not talking about his prey. His prey is going to get chased after and grabbed, not so much surprised, if that answers your question, Amanda. But the coloration is to keep him safe. So since he's a predator that's not as big as other predators, he might get also preyed upon by predators. So just because you're a predator doesn't mean that you don't have predators, right? So his predators might go after him, and the idea is to look dangerous. So this type of pattern in nature, a lot of times will signal to other animals that he is dangerous. Now, the only animals that he is dangerous to are his food. So all those animals I listed previously, like mice and rats, birds, eggs of all those animals, frogs, lizards, snakes, things like that. But otherwise, bigger animals have no worry at all when it comes to this snake. But he has this banded pattern to look dangerous. So for example, have you guys ever seen a lionfish? A lionfish has great big giant beautiful fins that stick out like this, but those fins are actually banded with black and white bands. And that is going to tell the other fish and the other animals in the sea to leave the lionfish alone. Now, in the lionfish's case, this is not a bluff. It is actually very, very venomous. So the lionfish is not lying when it says, hey, I'm dangerous. I have these patterns on me. But it's kind of just a universal signal to other animals that this says, stay away from me, if that makes sense. But that is why they have that. So no, they're not going to be an animal that would blend into much, is it? They more stand out, and standing out sometimes makes you safe. What kind of snake did you have, Ashley? Do you remember? You can tell me. You said you had a snake in the past. This one looks like a sea snake. Yes. So this type, that's something on Instagram, is commenting that it looks like a sea snake. Yeah, they look like a sea crate, don't they? And your sea snakes are very, very venomous. So that is another way that the sea snake can stay safe, by telling everybody in their path that they are dangerous. And of course, in that case, they are not lying either, just like the lionfish is. No. The kind of the fake danger factor. They're not really dangerous. They're not venomous, not poisonous. None of the things. Don't fall. Do you guys know the difference between poison and venom? So venom actually has to be injected. Like the tarantula was venomous because she has fangs to inject the venom into our food, right? The poisonous animals, you have to actually either eat them, you have to touch them and be affected by them, you would have to lick something, etc. So think of like poison ivy. Poison ivy will go onto your skin and then you'll get like a rash, right? So, but venom is like a bee sting. They have to like actually sting you and inject the venom into you for you to be affected. Just like Snow White, right? Snow White ate the poison apple, not the venom apple. So that's a good way to remember that. It was a ball python. Very, very good. Ball pythons make really, really good pets. These guys do too. So some king snakes are a little bit more on the bitey side, but Slytherin, as you can see, is quite the gentleman. Probably has to do with him being such a picky eater. He's just not inclined to bite at all. So every single snake, even individual to, even if it's the same species, like if I had another California king snake, they might have a totally different personality than Slytherin. So definitely something to consider. And not all ball pythons are just totally placid and the typical, the norm, just like dogs and cats, how all have different personalities too. That's what I'm trying to say. Of course, snakes have a forked tongue, right? Snakes have a forked tongue. That's to help them smell directionally. They do have a beautiful forked tongue. And that's to help them kind of sense the world around them. Snakes don't have any external ears, so they can't hear, at least much at all. There's theories that they can a little bit, but it's definitely not something they use readily as a sense in general. So smelling is really, really helpful to them. Ricardo is asking a good question. Do they swim? So all snakes can swim at least a little bit. Some snakes do not like to swim. For example, a rattlesnake. There's nothing, in my opinion, more hilarious than a rattlesnake that has to swim across the river. They try to stick their chin up like, oh, dear Lord, I don't want to be in this water. And they try to stick their tail up. So just like the essential belly will be in the water when they swim. It's really, really funny. So not every snake likes to swim, but almost every snake can swim if they have to. This type of snake could definitely like swim across a river or something like that. They wouldn't be necessarily like swimming all the time or be seen in the water a lot, but there are other snakes that are seen in the water a lot, like banded water snakes. Banded water snakes a lot of times will actually get mistaken for venomous snakes like cottonmouth, right? Now on Instagram, it looks like we're getting ready to say goodbye, but I'll start over for the rest of the program. It'll just be a little bit longer, just FYI. Don't you worry. Isn't Slytherin just so cute? He is such a good snake. Now let's talk a little bit about snakes that you might see in your own environment. So here in Texas anyway, we do have a few venomous snakes that are dangerous. So what we like to recommend with all wildlife in general, including snakes, including tarantulas, including lizards, all those guys, but especially snakes because a lot of times they can be dangerous. But we want to make sure that those guys are protected from you as well. So if you think about it, they are scared of you too, and they need to do their job and eat rodents and things and protect the environment, and they're part of the environment, so that's their job to be there, and it's okay for them to be there. It's their home. So the best thing you can do for any wildlife is just leave them alone. Now, if you must remove a snake from your property or you don't know what it is, first of all, find out what it is. You're more than welcome to text me. A lot of people text me snake photos so I can identify the snake for you, or find a snake expert, or find a very, very good and reliable Facebook group or something like that where you can identify snakes. And if it's a harmless snake, then there's no problem, right? Now, if there is a potentially dangerous snake in your environment, say it's like a rattlesnake or a cottonmouth or a copperhead or a coral snake, those are the 4 that actually can harm you here in the United States. And there's many more all over the world. So if you live anywhere else other than the United States, I did not list every single species that can harm a human. But if you have any of those and you don't want to leave it alone and you're scared for your pets or your kids or something like that, leaving them alone is the best way to do that. Leave them alone, they'll leave you alone. almost 90% of the time, you'll be fine. But if you just want them removed, you can call a professional to remove them. You can also do something simple like spray it with a water hose or something like that. I'm going to start over on Instagram. Spraying it with a water hose is a really easy way to kind of deter them. They don't really like that, so they'll leave. You can also try cleaning up your yard. I want to make sure and get back on Instagram really fast. Let me see. Hold on. Let me get it together here. Nope, don't want that. Oh, here we go. That's what I'm doing wrong. I'm looking at all the filters for some reason. I'm like, what is happening? Haha. I'm gonna make sure we're back. Hey guys, we're back here on Instagram. We're talking about snake safety. So if you guys see a dangerous snake in your yard, first of all, you need to identify it, right? You want to make sure what it is. That's really important. Do not handle any snakes in your own environment or anywhere unless you are a professional. Please don't do that. I don't recommend you picking up any wildlife because that helps them to stay safe and that helps you to stay safe, especially if you don't know what it is. Do not pick them up. But if you need a snake removed, you can call a professional like animal services to come remove it. There's different places that can do that for you. You can also, like I said, use something simple like a water hose to spray them and deter them from coming near you or your family. And you can also do things like make sure your yard is picked up of any debris. Make sure there's no pet food left out a whole lot because rats and mice might come out to eat the pet food. And then, of course, you have predators that want to eat the rats and mice like snakes, right? Things like that, etc. So there are many ways that you can help deter snakes from your own yard if you just don't like them. That is okay. It's okay to not like a snake. I just don't want you to harm a snake, right? That's what we want to encourage around here. So most snakes are totally harmless that you come across, and every once in a while you'll come across one that is dangerous. But if you don't touch them or they don't come in contact with you, there's no way that you can be harmed. Right? And there are many other tactics as well. If you guys want to elaborate on that or learn more about snakes and how you can stay safe from snakes, feel free to text or call me anytime. I really don't mind whatsoever. You can always text me your snake photos so I can identify them for you. It is getting warm outside, so a lot of snakes are coming out. You're going to see a lot of them. Okay? But we want to encourage you guys to try to respect snakes instead of harming them. That's very, very important. They deserve to live too. Do they see color? Good question, Ricardo. I don't believe they do. I don't believe any snake sees color. It's something to look up, but I don't believe they do at all. Their vision is not great. And they do have eyes that are always open, though. So they're always looking around. They don't have any eyelids. Instead of eyelids, these guys have a specialized scale, which sits on top of their eye. And it's clear, so they can see right through it, and that protects their eye. But they don't blink. So they're always looking around, unless they're just kind of resting, I guess, and not paying attention. But their vision is more based on movement, shadows. It's not super sharp. And I don't believe they see color. That's a very good question. They might see a little bit, but I don't think they do. But their sense of sight is not their best sense, and their sense of hearing is not their best sense. Their best sense is a sense of smell that they use with their tongue. Their tongue tells them about the world around them through smell. And how it does that is by basically they're sticking their tongue in and out of their mouth all the time, right? And then when the tongue comes back in, it's going to rub on the roof of their mouth, and it actually tells their brain through an organ called a Jacobson's organ. It's going to tell them information like a computer to their brain about what's going on. So that's how they kind of see the world around them, is through smells. Isn't that cool? Amanda says, could they also eat the roaches? So yes, some snakes eat roaches, like garter snakes. Garter snakes eat fish. Garter snakes eat frogs. Whoa. Garter snakes eat bugs. He's trapped me, etc. So yes, some snakes do eat insects. Pretty cool. Not a whole lot of them do that. So mostly you're going to have like spiders and lizards and birds, of course, that eat the bugs. And those you want around too. Opossums also eat bugs. Pretty cool. But yes, some do. Some do. You guys have been fantastic today. And I really appreciate all my friends, family, and followers tuning in as always. Once again, our live streams are free of charge, but we do have ways of tipping us, including Venmo. Venmo is found down below here on Facebook. At Once in a While is how you can find us on Venmo and tip us that way if you so desire, or donate to our cause. We also have our Amazon wish list, of course. You can go to onceinaWhile.com and scroll all the way down to the bottom and click donate to our cause. That's where you can find our Amazon wish list and send us some items that we need for the animals. And that's greatly appreciated as well. Hopefully we'll all be out of quarantine soon. But until then, we're actually still doing our live stream programs every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 3:30 p.m. Central Time here on Facebook. We're streaming on YouTube and we're streaming on Instagram usually as well at 3:30 p.m. Central Time every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Don't forget to call or text or email me regarding Zoom rooms. Those are great ways to bring the zoo to you for classrooms, for parties, for office parties, for just a little break where you can customize your own Zoom room encounter. You can pick the animals that you get to meet, and you can find out about that through calling me, texting me, emailing me, onceinawhile.com. However you want to book that. That is always fun too. It's something new that we're doing. It's gone really, really well so far. It's been a lot of fun. Well, you guys, do you have any other questions? Jeffrey says, doing the Lord's work, eating the roaches. Yup. A lot of animals eat roaches. That is like their one purpose in life, right? Is to feed other animals. Roaches don't really have any other purpose, do they? No judgment, but they're not my favorite either. But yes, absolutely. Doing the Lord's work. Okay, guys, you've been amazing as usual. I hope you enjoyed meeting our lizard and our tarantula and our snake here, the king snake, Slytherin. He's been perfect as always. Look at that cute face. He's so cute. I think snakes are adorable and noble and wonderful. Okay, guys, it's been fantastic. I'm going to go ahead and play our song as per tradition, right? And sing along if you know it. We are nothing close to ordinary, going up to the other. Holding hands and let's have fun together, singing as loud as you can. Everybody singing once in a while, together once in a while. Say once in a while, that's a word from you. We are nothing close to ordinary, going up to the other. Hold our hands and let's have fun together, singing as loud as you can. Everybody singing once in a while, together once in a while. Say once in a while, that's the one. Singing once in a while, together once in a while. Say once in a while. Hooray! Thank you guys so much. We'll see you on Wednesday at 3:30 p.m. Central. And can't wait to see you then. And you're very welcome. Bye.